program or network you put together, but it's ideas. It's out of the box thinking. So let's turn on our innovation. And what are innovation solutions? How innovation solutions are utilized and how businesses use them to disrupt instead of being disrupted. Right now, if we look around us, we are trying to do a major disruptive innovation for the bar gun. We're bringing in metal 3D printing. Who would have thought that just even a couple of years ago, right? And we're having some growing pains with it, but have you seen a bar gun handle? It's amazing. The way the other bar guns are made today, they're made out of layers of acrylic that are machined and glued together with carcinogenic chemicals, and they've been made that way for decades. But our team took a different approach, and they're bringing in a process that can print all those things. It looks like headers. If you remember the hot rod that was out here with that, you see the pipes coming down. That's what it reminds me of. But it's a different way of doing things. It's out of the box thinking. And there's a lot of challenges to get where it's at, and there's challenges yet ahead. But it's disruptive technology. Oops. Okay, so the classic is we think of the light bulb moment, right? How many times have you been somewhere and you're like, tapping your feet, doing your fingers, you're getting a little disturbed? It's like, how many times have you gone to HEB and you thought you got the short line, and that person in front of you gets out this expanding thing that's got 5 million coupons in it? So my suggestion is get rid of the stupid coupons as a light bulb moment, but that probably won't happen. But throughout your day, throughout your week, you run into things, and in your mind you think of, I could do that better, or it would be a lot better if. And a lot of times we miss those little nuggets because we don't write them down or we don't invest in them. If you want to plant a flower or a garden, you put in a seed and then you feed it, and it begins to grow. And that's how ideas and innovation start. So a lot of times it's good if you remember to do that. And believe me, as you get older, if you don't write it down, you won't remember it. But the key thing with innovation really comes down to focusing on something that's one of the first questions when we're filing a patent. What problem are you solving? Why are you doing this thing? And that's a key. You get focus on it, and then everything spins around that. So some of the things we want to take a look at is, to do innovation, it requires that we have a new perspective. Maybe we got to look at it different. How many times have you heard, we've tried that before, or, that doesn't work? There's all these things that's the first thing you run into. It's like, I got this idea, but everybody's shooting me down. And so we have to have a new perspective. And then, quite honestly, we have to figure out with that new perspective why we're willing to try again if it's been tried before. Because look at the technology we have available to us today. It's just a little bit of code for electronics to cover up any kind of mechanical flaw. We do it all the time. But the 3D printing, but other machining operations, technologies we have, materials that we have, there's all kinds of things. So we have to have that new perspective, and maybe we have to have a little bit of courage and be a stubborn pain in the butt. Don't give up on your idea. new ideas. Let's try something different. Look for new ways, uh, new ideas, new angles to do it. We all the time we see it. Sometimes you see on a car or in a store somewhere, somebody's got a cool gadget. Well, that cool gadget, maybe something about it is something that we could use, either personally or Lancer. So we have to kind of remember that and say, what if I did something like that? One of my favorite things is it's been described that a good engineer is a lazy person, right? So lazy equals engineer. Well, that's not a bad thing. It's because the engineer doesn't want to waste their time doing something they don't have to do, right? So an engineer is likely to make a solution so they don't have to spend time or effort to keep doing something. The artists are known for their creativity. They'll look at things a little different, maybe tie in some things like how it feels or, the impact that it makes. The, if you will, the ambiance of a restaurant is somebody was creative because, all you need is a table and chairs and napkins are optional. So, and then this is the one that the guys upstairs like, the penny pincher. The penny pincher's view causes an interesting kind of innovation. How can I do something for nothing? Does that sound familiar? Um, when you put all these together, these are some of the elements that we all can use to be creative or innovative. The biggest thing that we have as a real asset as a company is our ability to get together and collaborate, to share ideas, have an environment of trust where we really need to say thank you for your input rather than that's a dumb idea or, you know, I've heard that one before. If we allow ourselves to work together and build on each other's strengths, ideas, those different elements that we just looked at, some of the team is going to be more of the artist and maybe less of the lazy person or the others. So if we all work together, we bring different pieces. And that's true in various aspects of what we do in life. Even our management team, we all have different strengths that we try to build on to work together to be stronger. The collaboration is very important because my experience is the best ideas are not the idea that came from an individual. They're ideas that were built out of pieces of each of those individual ideas, and they get put together to make a great idea. And so we have to work on that collaboration and continuous innovation. It needs to be part of our way of thinking. Well, wait a minute. Well, how do we do that? One of the things I want to suggest is creative spaces. It's a topic, it's a theme, and my team knows I don't say I'm working from home, I say I'm working remote because I've intentionally a couple of times worked remote at another location for the purpose of getting rid of distractions, but also there's a creativity and a freshness that comes from new surroundings. And so we see this. Um, here's Anthony on the beach in Hawaii. And okay, this is what I actually did with my team uh, early in the COVID working remote situation we found ourselves in. Is I intentionally went to the local coffee at the Pearl Some friends had recommended it, and so I was real excited about actually sharing that I was there, that I was immersed in it, but I was also experiencing it at the same time. Now, you could say there's a little bit of distraction because you see some interesting people things in that, but it causes different thinking to happen because we get in ruts, we get in patterns. And I set up at the table outside and had the camera looking over my shoulder at the brewery to let the team know and encourage that these creative spaces can help us. And what I think we've all learned is if you've got a bunch of meetings online, uh, doesn't matter where you're at. This technology we're using is allowing us to still be effective in communication. I think sometimes it's even more effective than what we were doing. And then there's a piece that I was privileged to get infected with a while back due to Don Smeller and Ray Good, um, and James Manley too. This is where we met James. Is the makerspace. 10-bit Works is a makerspace where creative people come together and they share ideas and they do all kinds of things. They have a laser that we use a lot because we haven't bought one yet, and they have 3D printers and just all kinds of stuff. But the creative people that walk into that door looking to collaborate with other people is a experience that is hard to describe, but it's a very valuable thing. But what you learn by being around creative people in a creative community is you pick up that sense of let's make it. We can do this. And there's really not many things that holds them back except for, you know, time and money, right? Same things we deal with. But it's a real interesting experience. Ray Good is a member, and I'm a member. I encourage you to check that out if you're interested in doing a project or you have a hobby. Um, and then there's another kind of space that's available and it's growing. There's new ones that have been opening up in Seguin and New Braunfels. There's some, and in San Antonio there's some. Is they're shared workspaces. Um, a friend of mine has his office in this Moab that's over by the airport, and they have really nice inspirational surroundings. If you just need a break, you can go there. There's some collaborative spaces there. You can have meetings there. Um, so it's a really catchy thing because a lot of people don't actually go to an office, but sometimes they want to have a sense of community or they need that just a place to be separate. Like maybe at home there's distractions going on at work, you know, everybody's on your rear end about deadlines and stuff, and you're trying to solve a problem. So maybe that space would be good for you. I want to share some specific examples. First of all, I wanted to point out this is actual Ray in his younger years before the beard. Um, Doing 3D printing down at the makerspace when it was down by Lackland Air Force Base. And what was really interesting and appealing to me at the time was uh, Ray and Don were part of this fad where someone would print the parts for them to build their 3D printer, and then they would in turn print parts for the next person, right? So it was kind of a neat setup, and they learned a lot. But of course, I didn't have time for that, so I said, I'm just going to buy a printer. I'm not going to make a printer. By the time I got rid of my printer, I had rebuilt it, added on to it, and all kinds of stuff because I'd been infected with this crazy makerspace. So you have an idea, you pursue it, you do it. And I encourage you uh, to have that kind of spirit. And here in our projects, we have a challenge because too often we put in the R&D development into a commercialization project. So it's got a fixed timeline. And so, that isn't very conducive to trying multiple ideas. So we're working hard to try to do development separate so that it can be ready for somebody to use, which is what Toyota supposedly does when we studied the Toyota method. But a couple of specific examples that I think are interesting. I bit the bullet, got into 3D printing, and then all that goes with that to be a maker. And I'm going to show you a little bit about this little guy. Everybody knows I think I like Minions. And then what the heck is this thing? So the problem was I have two 3D printers now too. That probably explains my addiction. The my 3D printer requires that I plug a USB drive into the back to give it the file to print. And my printer's inside of an enclosure because it also has a laser head. So it's like a pain in the butt to try to get it in there. So there was the problem, needed a solution. So I collaborated with some people, and like James and another friend of mine are like, oh, well, you can use an Octoprint server. I got to set it up and do, okay. Ditch the enclosure. No, that's got a purpose. Buy a different printer. That'll probably get me divorced. And then use an extender cord for $1. It's now $1.25 because Dollar Tree went up. That's terrible inflation. So I picked the USB extender cord because I'm cheap. And then I expanded on the idea. I 3D printed a stand to hold the USB end of the cord so I could plug in and use one hand to do it because my printer sets to the side. So it's very easy to work with. And then to have some fun, why not throw in a Minion action figure? So all these kids that can't find Minion toys, guilty. So now I'm going the next step even on this is I put it on the Facebook marketplace to sell to raise funds for some projects in Kenya. So an idea developed, matured, and now hopefully will raise some money. This crazy thing is an umbilical cord clamp. You guys know what that is? When the baby comes out, the cord's still connected, they're still plugged into the matrix. And so what they have to do is they have to clamp that baby off before they sever the ties because otherwise it's going to leak. And so what happened was I was getting ready to go to Kenya, and I had about a month to get ready, but a need was expressed that they had got run out of clamps, and they really needed them. I was associated with a clinic where they do a lot of the births, which is a real blessing for the villages. But anyway, they couldn't get them quickly. They don't have a lot of money. And to try to expedite them in the U.S. was just so expensive, and no guarantee I'd have it in time to make the trip. And then, cheapo again. I figure it cost me about 25 cents a piece to print these things. So I expanded the idea into the two colors to help highlight that it's got some teeth on there. And then I printed batches of these things, and I took like 30 of them to Kenya to tide them over until we could get a shipment at a reasonable cost to them. So the funny part was, after they were used for their intended purpose, I've visited people, and you see these things like on the drapes and other places. They don't throw anything away. They recycle it, reuse it. Even the plastic bags from the store, they make a soccer ball for the kids out of it. They tie it together with twine so it'll hold up. So my design came from reviewing Google images of all the different umbilical cord clamps and understanding the features and combining them and making this design as simple as possible. So that's a case of innovation to solve some problems. It ended up with some design elements, but a lot of it was how to take care of a need and what are the different ways that I could go about it. So you need to feed your creativity. And this is true for not just making stuff, but any type of creativity. I've attended some creative arts conferences, and they strongly recommend that you immerse yourself in the arts. If you want to be a part of it and you want to be good at it, you got to be into it, right? And so that might be art, music, theater, photography, and the makerspace. I'm plugging the makerspace, okay? Make time to be creative. If you're so busy that you never really exercise those creative muscles, they're going to dry up. They're going to atrophy like your regular muscles, right? You got to dream, sketch out your idea. Don't lose it. If you're standing in line and you're pissed because it's taken too long, make a note in your phone so you'll remember what you were thinking at that moment. And then get into making stuff. So then you have to focus on the idea if you have it. So my example earlier of a seed, and you got to feed it, you got to explore like I did, enhance the idea, and then try it. And the reality is, the first time you make something, you'll figure out how you want to make the next one. There's a learning that happens by doing it. And that's true for us too. That's why we do prototypes. So I want to encourage you today to join in the Lancer Innovation Revolution. Invite others to collaborate with you. Don't go it alone. Brainstorm at a whiteboard with others. It's easy to mark it up, to change it, to express your ideas, and then you can take a picture afterwards. Save that. And if you have questions, you can come back because people will bring up different angles, different ideas, and that will be a map for you in building your design. So the melding or joining together of multiple ideas builds a better mousetrap. It's true. If you go it alone, you'll find yourself maybe painted into a corner. Elon Musk says one of the problems with our military contract stuff is that they freeze a design too early and they go to great lengths to try to force that thing to work because they've made all these commitments. But the reality is, if you do the upfront brainstorming and collaboration, you'll find that your idea is better and you do have a direction if you face challenges. So that'll make your detailed design and build more successful by investing in creative collaboration. So the bottom line is, what are you going to do to be creative? I hope this has inspired you and will help you. Just a couple of the upcoming speakers. Kyron next week, and Sandesh the following week. I hope to hear from you if you have any questions or comments. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bob.
Good job, Bob.